Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, good whatever it is, wherever you are, whoever you might happen to be. Welcome once again to our bi weekly show, No Nerd Caliber, in which we lay out what we think are the best three or four things within a given fandom, some topic within nerddom overall. And tonight, the topic is our top three time travel tales. Uh, Good stuff in time travel, whether it's movies, books, TV series, comics, anime, whatever. They're all up for grabs. I'm Rodney Brown. I'm the editor in chief of Nerd Caliber, first person shooter as a cosplay photographer on Facebook, Burley underscore adopter on Twitter. And joining me tonight is, from his brand new palatial estate, Byron, if you would.
Hi guys, Byron McNeil, aka Byron D0 on multiple facets of the internet. Been away for a while, been doing some school type stuff and whatnot, but I'm here and I'm excited to talk about some time travel. If you want to see some of the stuff I do besides on their caliber, you should check out my Instagram. It's BDZEROART. That's BD0Art. I have been updating off and on, but it's cool stuff. Check it out.
Awesome. Very cool. And folks, we apologize for Byron's echoey. He literally just moved in over the course of this weekend. And so, like, microphones and other things are all hidden away. So we'll get that fixed before the next show. And also joining us tonight is the founder of this entire massive media empire, semi massive, Manny, if you would.
Hey, this is Manny, founder of Nerd Caliber, co-owner with Rodney. Yeah, I'm happy to be here and talk about one of my favorite subjects of all time.
Oh, ow. well played, sir. Well played. Yeah, get that rim shot going. Um, the reason we're doing time travel, we have a tendency to pick these particular topics based on something else that's going on or going to be going on, and that is this Thursday's full fat spoiler chat will be about the very recently dropped Chris Pratt movie, The Tomorrow War. So tune in for that if you have seen it or you plan to see it before Thursday, and or if you don't mind spoilers, because the show's called Spoiler Chat, so we're going to spoil the heck out of it. This show will try not to spoil the shows that we're going to be talking about or the books or whatever. But we will give you an impression of why we think they're where they are in our rating of things that we really appreciate under the general umbrella of time travel. So we do this, as always, alphabetically to be as even-handed as possible, which means, Byron, you get to go first. What is number 3 on your list? And Byron, you got to turn your mic back on.
My apologies. Okay, so number 3 on my list is one that I don't know if people bring up a lot when it comes to discussion of time travel, but Dragon Ball Z, and here's why. The specific art that made me respect Dragon Ball for its use of time travel was the Future Trunks art. That's everything from his arrival just after the Battle of Frieza to the end of the Cell game. Now, time travel is a very slippery subject. Most intellectual properties don't get it right most of the time, but Toriyama did something that I love, whereas he followed the paradox effect, as well as what I like to call it. It's like once a timeline is established, there's no changing it. But if you go back and change something in the past, it creates a new timeline. So up until Dragon Ball Super, they nearly got it right. So that's why it is my number 3.
I think that makes sense. I got to say, of all of the badasses within Dragon Ball Z, a badass with pink hair and a sword is pretty awesome. You got to respect that.
Oh, absolutely.
Manny, what would your number 3 be?
My number 3 will be an old movie from 1979, I believe, Time After Time. which confuses people when you first tell them because they think of the Cyndi Lauper song uh,
Mm.
when you mention it. It confuses the two, but it's a fun movie. It's aged a bit. Yeah, I mean, it's been what 40 years now since it come out. Wow, that's weird thinking that, but it has like Malcolm McDowell, and David Warner as the two main leads, and they're fantastic actors. You see them in Star Trek. You've heard them in the DC animated universe. They're everywhere in nerddom. Um, I mean, no one forgets David Warner as Satan and Time Bandits, which is another fantastic, a very weird time travel movie. Um, but I like this movie because it's the first time I've ever seen that I remember seeing two like iconic uh, figures in real life and also some sort of mythology in our pop culture. H.G. Wells and Jack the Ripper, and they're facing off each other in modern times and trying to well, obviously H.G. Wells trying to stop Jack the Ripper from killing more people. He feels guilty for not really helping him escape, but showing him what the time machine was and that which enabled Jack the Ripper to escape from his, his time to our time. So it's a fun movie. It's one of those where each of them are trying to like look at the world, the modern world, and they sort of critique it, which I thought was very interesting. There's a great scene where um, Jack the Ripper, aka called his real name in the movie is John Stevenson, and he sits down with H.G. Wells, and H.G. Wells tells him, "Hey, listen, you don't belong in this world. You need to go back into my world and face the consequences of your crime." He said, "No, no, I belong here," and it shows him like all the footage and news footage of what's going on around the world, and he says something very interesting, like, in my time, I'm a freak, but here, I'm just an amateur, and it's just a very interesting like lens into modern society and how a lot of the idealists in the late 19th century probably would be devastated to see how things have become since then, or have things maybe haven't changed at all. Um, but that's why I like Time After Time. It's a fun movie, but it also has some deep moments.
If you like that sort of stuff, folks, I can recommend, if I can remember the name of the story, and I can't, a Harlan Ellison story that was in his second anthology, Again Dangerous Visions, which takes that same concept and moves it way into the future, where Jack the Ripper winds up far in the future at a point where technology has developed so much in biotech that people can't die, no matter what they do to each other or themselves. There's just no permanent death, and it ruins him. The idea that there is nothing he can do to harm people in any way that scares them, even no matter how horrific he does things, it just absolutely destroys Jack the Ripper's ego and personality. It's really difficult at times to take, but it's an amazing story. Um, yeah, that was high on my consideration too. I love Time After Time. It's one of my favorite movies. I love that idea that you take these two characters, supposedly H.G. Wells, who actually built a time machine, as opposed to just wrote about one, and supposedly Jack the Ripper, who clearly was a real figure, but nobody knows who he was, and puts them together into a time travel story. Awesome. So my number three is a much, much more modern work. It's also a movie, and it is Source Code. Jake Gyllenhaal, Michelle Monaghan, directed by Duncan Jones, just his second movie after Moon. Although not written by him like Moon, it's written by somebody named Ben Ripley. And the idea is Jake Gyllenhaal is a businessman on a train that is heading into Chicago from the suburbs, and it explodes. And then he comes back and realizes in the interstitial parts between him going back in time to the train again and again is that it is a mission of his from some point in the future to find out what is going on with the train and stop it, because once it gets into Chicago it becomes it doesn't just blow up the train, it's a small nuclear device. So he's just looping back and forth, failing again and again. And as that happens, it slowly reveals more about his reality that he's in whatever future he's in, going back, you know, not very far back either. You get the impression this isn't like a super far future thing. And that mystery opens up in addition to the mystery that he's trying to solve in the train. And it's really wonderfully well complex plotted, very interesting story. Vera Farmiga, Jeffrey Wright, you know, just an amazing cast.
Yeah, agreed. That's a great movie. One of those when you leave, you just can't help just thinking about it. It sticks to you. You know, you want to kind of dissect it. And Duncan Jones is such a brilliant director and writer. I hate that he may be just more well known now for the World of Warcraft movie,
Right.
which is sad because I mean Moon also.
Moon is
That
genius.
yeah, it's what happens when you find out you're disposable.
Yeah.
And you know, it just it's good writing, very good writing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of too bad. I was not a big fan of Warcraft. I was more of a fan of Mute, which was his most recent movie with Alexander Skarsgård. But even that wasn't quite up to the level of the first two, although it's set in the same universe as Moon. Sam Rockwell has a little tiny bit he's being interviewed by some news organization on a TV, or like in one of the first scenes of the movie, about, you know, I don't want to give anything away, about the moon and what happened there. All right, so that's our number threes. Moving on to our number two movie, Byron, fire away.
All right. Okay, so after hearing like all these interesting titles I haven't seen, it's gonna sound really basic, but I'm gonna go with Avengers Endgame.
Again, high on my possible list there. There's nothing basic about it, but go ahead.
Yep. I chose Endgame because it's like Dragon Ball. It almost gets it right. Like they up until a certain point where they figure out time travel. You're thinking, oh, cool. So they're doing it. They're doing the multiple timeline thing, and even like to the point in the movie where they're actually time traveling. You're thinking, oh, cool. This is gonna happen. They're actually committing to this, and then the ending. And the ending.
Yep.
And I'm just like, but they're not even gonna try to explain this, are they? Like, not in the slightest.
Nope.
And
except after the fact, you know, the writers tried to explain it, and then the directors tried to explain it, and they both had different explanations. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Endgame's it's a great movie. I mean it's an epic, I would say. It resolves 10-year storyline that started with Iron Man 1. You know, it's
yes.
I mean it's interesting. Endgame, I don't think of it. There's so much happening in Endgame. I tend to forget it's a time travel movie, because there's just so much action and
it's a time heist.
Yeah, exactly. And it's interesting. I'm enjoying what's going on with Loki right now, and I'm very keen to see what's going to happen with the new Ant-Man movie. You know, so it's interesting to see that Marvel's not done yet with time.
Not even close. I would dare say time and time travel is going to be the core of Phase 4 or 5, at least Phase 4.
I'm inclined to believe that.
Yep. All right, so Manny, your number two choice.
This is probably one of the nicer movies that I watch a lot. I tend to watch, I know it's a lot of dark stuff, but this one, Star Trek IV, The Voyage Home, it's lighthearted, funny, but also has serious moments. The idea is that as the original crew is trying to return home, this weird alien probe comes into Earth and starts disrupting everything. Nothing is safe. Some sort of like super EMP of sorts. And the Enterprise, the crew is trying to figure out, okay, what can we do? Hey, let's go back in time. They figure out that it's the language of whales. So they go back in time to try to get two whales and try to bring it back into the future so that it could solve this big problem.
Because whales have gone extinct in the 23rd century.
Yes. A lot of messages in this movie. Obviously, that's one of them. Things, how we're not taking care of our environment, nature, all that. But it's a good funny movie. I mean, movies go back and kind of make fun about modern society and how absurd things are in real life. But yeah, it's just a fun movie. All the Leonard Nimoy. I think this is his first directorial movie, I believe. Um,
Possibly.
but I know he directed this, and he did a fantastic job. You know.
Yes, then this would be his first, because the first one I'm thinking of is the next one. So yes, if he directed this, it would be his first.
Yeah. But yeah, fantastic movie. I mean, Star Trek does time travel all the time. If you want to ask me what's the best TV Star Trek episode, I would say maybe Yesterday's Enterprise would be up there. But for a movie, I think if
That was the Next Generation, right?
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay, I'm just making sure. I do remember that episode very well.
It was really good.
Yeah. But Star Trek 4 it's great. I can't see anyone not liking this movie.
Yep. I guess I forgot to mention this in the last in Byron's selection, but so while I was digging up images for this, I really tried to get a high enough resolution picture of Cap standing over Cap, the America's ass. I just couldn't find a high enough resolution version of it. But
the perfect time for it too.
It would have been. Believe me, I went through like pages of Google image searches to try to find something high enough resolution to meet our feed, and it just couldn't do it. But in this one, I tried to find that picture of Catherine Hicks, who is a zoologist, cetacean researcher, I guess, works with whales. Near the end, where they are trying to capture the whales in San Francisco Bay or just outside of it in the ocean or something. It's a rainstorm, and she's barely holding on to the ship because she's trying to get in once she realizes that these people are actually, in her mind, aliens. In just the most ridiculous tight pink sweater, just dipped into San Francisco Bay again and again. It's like, okay, it's egregious. It's gratuitous, it's obviously, late 70s or early 80s, completely misogynistic, typical Hollywood stuff, but that scene sticks with you. Anyway, my number 2. Speaking of something that'll stick with you, this is a TV series called Travelers. It didn't get nearly the kind of excitement and play that it should have. It ran for 3 seasons, 2016, 2017, and 2018. But it had a brilliant premise, incredibly well written. Eric McCormick, obviously, there is the lead, and most of the others are fairly unknown Canadian, usually actors, because it's a Canadian production. The idea is that at some point, many hundreds of years in the future, when Earth is almost uninhabitable, scientists figure out a way to sort of do time travel. They can send people's consciousness back into another body, which will then completely overwrite the consciousness, essentially kill them, or make them a different person. So their plan is to send teams of people back in time to try to stop some of the things that happen that lead to the ecological, warfare, climatological, biological horrors that ultimately wind up destroying the Earth, or nearly destroying the Earth. But to do it safely, what they do is they pick people who are dead or are about to die. So in the normal course of things, they find somebody from historical records who was about to die, pick the exact moment where they were about to die, and then put the agent's head in, or brain inside, or consciousness inside that person's head. McCormick is an FBI agent who would have fallen down an empty elevator shaft during a particular investigation, and they stop. The problem is, because there's been so much warfare, damage, and so on, their records are incomplete for what's going on in the 21st century. And they make mistakes about the people whose bodies these consciousnesses are inhabiting. Sometimes they're right. McCormick's is pretty much a straight shot. Sometimes they're really not. And how the team deals with that is fascinating. And again, I can give away all, most of the stuff happens in the first episode where you realize that mistakes have been made and what that means for the team going forward. What those mistakes are is so wonderfully realized that it's not worth spoiling.
Like, this is a show I am somewhat familiar with. I've heard great things about it, especially in the sense of how they depict racism in time travel. Which is not.
I'm trying to think.
Well,
if
they
that's
do it better than most.
I don't know that that's an element I remember. Well, yes. Oh, okay. Yeah. Yes, when people come back from the future and suddenly they realize they're in a racist culture. Yes.
Yes.
That is a pretty big part of one of the, sort of missed bit of information, aspects of this story.
So this show sounds like almost like a different take on what Quantum Leap was trying to do, in a sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, except that they know right out of the gate, they have a mission and they have multiple missions. They're individual missions that are essentially like 3-4 episode arcs or ones that run the entire course of the season, overarching type things. That they need to get solved and try to either prevent something from happening or change the way something happens. And their mission is nothing gets in the way of that. Nothing.
I like the idea. I also like the idea of using people who are about to die, because that way they can avoid the whole slippery slope that is the space-time continuum.
True. Although you realize it eventually plays out pretty clearly that this is the concept of the multiple branching timelines, because, obviously the FBI agent was supposed to be dead and now he's not, so it's a different timeline completely. Not enough to have changed their future, though.
When you first mentioned this as your pick, for some reason I thought you meant Voyagers, with exclamation at the end. Don't know if you remember it. It's early 80s. It was a one-season time travel show about a guy, kind of like a Han Solo, goes back in time trying to fix things.
Yep.
He accidentally brings a kid with him. He loses his book that's supposed to tell him what the historical events are, but the kid was raised. I think his father was a history professor, so he knows his history, and they keep jumping in time trying to fix broken events in the past.
Maybe. At first I thought yes, but that doesn't sound like the show I'm thinking of. Actually, the show I'm thinking of was like Time Tunnel or something like that.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, it's just really well written. Much more geared towards the personal impact of what this is on the people around the team, who have to deal with the fact that suddenly the people that are in their lives are not exactly the same. The people in the team who have to try to convince those people that yes, they are the same, and the world in general, which, as it turns out, they're not the only team. They're not even remotely close to the first one, which the organization that sent them back didn't really spell out in great. I mean, they knew there were other teams. They had no idea with the depth of how long this program has been going on. So it's just really, really good. I can't recommend it strongly enough. So we would normally go into number one, but since there's just three of us, we all picked honorable mentions. So we are going to go into our honorable mentions before we get to our number one top picks. And we're going to start. Byron, your honorable mention is
Doctor Who, because let's be honest, it's not science fiction. It's science fantasy. They make their own rules according to the writers. Yeah, Stephen Moffat definitely pushed the envelope with that aspect of his run, and I've since stopped trying to make sense of their time travel rules a long time ago.
It's fuzzy-wuzzy, timey-wimey stuff.
Wibbly wobbly, you want.
Wibbly wobbly. Thank you. That's the correct term. Yeah, and the image I picked up was the most recent Doctor, Jodie Whittaker, from the holiday special this last holiday, which is a really good special. John Barrowman's inclusion was fantastic, as problematic as we've discovered he is, but still. Captain Jack is a great character, always will be. Yeah, also Doctor Who was on my list. You know, the problem with Doctor Who is that I would probably have to try to pick an episode or an arc, and I don't know that I could do that.
Yeah, I mean, most sci-fi genres have something. I mean, Doctor Who, what? It's been around for over 50 years. Actually, they're celebrating their 60th year, either this year or next year. Yeah, 60
I think
years.
It's coming up soon.
Yeah,
Wow.
I couldn't pick a story. I mean, there's probably I could probably do a top three if we ever do Doctor Who, but I couldn't by itself, like, you know. And there's also Red Dwarf, another British show, comes in and out, sort of time travel.
It has time travel moments.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It really does.
Yeah.
You know, but we could talk about all sorts of things like that. But yeah, it's Doctor. Yeah, Doctor definitely an honorable mention. But it's just such a, like, we could do shows upon shows on just Doctor Who.
Yep. That may be a subject coming up in like an upcoming, the Doctor Who holiday special or something next year. We could do.
Let us know in the comments below. We shall see a Doctor Who show from us.
Exactly. top Doctor Who episodes or arcs. Manny, your honorable mention.
My honorable mention is All-Star Superman issue number 6, Funeral in Smallville by Grant Morrison and Frank Whiteley.
Yep.
Hopefully I'm saying his name right. If don't watch the animated movie, it doesn't do it justice in my opinion. Read the book, read the 12-issue series that Grant Morrison wrote about Superman. It's fantastic. Each issue is wonderful. I picked this one only because Superman always had weird time travel. Even if you go back to the 60s, 50s, with Superboy joining the Legion of Superheroes,
right?
You know, it's always time travel has always been a facet with Superman's
there
mythology.
Were some wonderful runs where Superman went back in time to the height of Krypton.
Yeah.
That explored Kryptonian ecology, and it was wonderful stuff.
Yeah, even in the first Superman movie, he went back in time to save Lois. You know, so again,
by the way, just since you brought it up, I did shout out isn't the right word. Condolences to Richard Donner's family, to his wife Laura Shula Donner.
Yes.
The director of course, the first two Christopher Reeve Superman movies.
Oh, he passed away.
He passed away today at 91.
Yes, he did.
You know, Lethal Weapon, Goonies, Lady Hawk. So many amazing movies. We'll be talking about him tomorrow on Nerd Week Live. Too many shows, losing my mind.
Well, definitely also check out the Richard Donner, Jeff Johns work on DC Comics. They did a short run together on Superman, which is really good.
Cool.
You know, Jeff Johns has his own can of worms.
Oh, definitely. You know,
but he does great work. I won't take that away from him.
Yeah, but going back to Grant Morrison, who is again a great writer. This issue deals with I don't know if that should be, this is spoilery, the death of Superman's foster dad, or the dad he grew up with, and there's these three strangers there, and they're
Jonathan Senior, right?
And they're Supermen from the future, and there's some sort of time monster that's destroying everything, and they're working together to stop it, but at the same time, it's just a lot. It's a sweet issue. If your heart is a break at the end of it, you're a robot or sent by or Lex Luthor reading this. But it's a really good. I mean, I don't want to spoil it too much, but it's a really good story. Definitely should check it out if you're looking for a good time travel comic.
So my honorable mention, what's already been brought up in this show, is Loki. Loki is clearly a time travel story. doesn't get more timey than the Time Variance Authority, multiple timelines, going back to, DB Cooper or, Pompeii just at the eruption of Vesuvius, or all of the other things that happen in the first couple of episodes. So, not giving anything away if you haven't seen, up to the most recent. And actually, all of that's in the trailers. But the only reason it's an honorable mention and nothing higher is because the series has not concluded, so I couldn't say for sure where it would place. I know it's going to place if we do this again. But exactly where, I don't know. We'll have to see. But as we've, again, already mentioned, with Loki and Endgame and so on, time travel and time in general is going to be the, in multiple branching timelines or multiverse, is going to be the linchpin of at least Phase 4, if not, 4, 5, and 6 of the MCU.
Yeah, it's excellent so far. I really hope it ends well because it's so good so far.
So, without giving anything away, because Hiddleston has said this and it's not a spoiler per se, he did say that, once you get to the end of episode 4, which is the most recent one, everything changes. The series changes. The nature of what the series is about changes drastically. And again, there's all sorts of things you can speculate, but I think we're about to see these last 2 episodes are going to be pretty spectacular.
And I'm here for it.
And I am here for it too. Oh, absolutely. All right, Byron, numero uno.
Okay. Number 1. This is one I love talking about every chance I get. Bender's Big Score, the first in a series of Futurama movies post original run on Fox, and it is balls to the wall time travel shenanigans. Like you take the concept of a time heist from Endgame, and then you put in the neutral evil mentality of Bending Rodriguez. And you have yourself all kinds of wacky awesomeness. My favorite aspect of it, and as I brought up in my other entries, is the respect for time travel. And unlike all these other movies and shows I talk about, this one sticks landed. It's like after a while you're thinking, oh, okay, so this is how we're gonna go. And it's like, nope, I didn't forget a damn thing. You should know me better. And they play it all the way to the end. And I don't want to spoil this movie because it's so hilarious. And if you haven't seen Bender's Big Score and you're a Futurama fan, what the hell are you doing? Go watch it now.
I got to admit, I've never seen it. In fact, I didn't even know of it. So I'm going to have to put it on my list.
So when Fox canceled Futurama, they released 4 movies in between when before Comedy Central picked it up again and continued the season. And each of those movies are excellent. I mean, oh man, yeah, I can understand why it's your number 1. They're really excellent stories.
Yes. Well, yeah, because Matt Groening, I feel like he may have lost his touch a little bit with the Comedy Central run, but in Futurama's prime, it was a comedy for sci-fi geeks everywhere, and those movies were definitely like the cherry on the sundae for that franchise.
I have a riddle for both of you. How can Futurama be so good, but Disenchantment be so terrible? Someone can explain that to me.
I don't know. I haven't even watched it yet because I just have no interest in it because it's just like the way I see it, it would probably be the same joke.
Well,
only not done nearly smart.
I actually looked into this a little bit, or at least considered this. I think it's the direction. It is way, way too fast with its attempts at comedy. It just doesn't stop and give you a chance to let the joke breathe. unlike
So it's
particularly.
always on.
Hmm?
So you're saying it's always on?
Well, yeah, it's like it's trying. It's like it's emulating Family Guy in the way it delivers its comedy,
Mm.
as opposed to The Simpsons or early Futurama and early Simpsons, particularly, um, where they let the joke just sort of, get out there and work. And here it's just like, here's a joke, there's a joke, here's a joke, here's a comedy bit,
Mm,
and it just doesn't work. I don't think with Groening's
that's
writing.
no bueno.
So,
Mm.
but that's just my theory. Um, and it has nothing to do with time travel,
Yeah.
unless we could go back in time and tell Matt Groening to hire a different director,
Mm.
Or maybe just make more Futurama
or that.
instead.
Manny, your number one.
My number one is A Sound of Thunder by Ray Bradbury, short story. Please avoid the movie that came out 2005 at all costs.
Which
'Cause
is the picture I brought up there, because having a picture of a short story is next to impossible.
yeah,
But that is
I
the 2005 movie.
yeah I like the short story so much that I actually finished the whole movie because I really like the story that Ray Bradbury wrote so much. And again, it's a short story. It's not very long. The idea is that there's a time safari. When it takes place in the future, there's a time safari where they send the very rich to go back in time and kill a dinosaur. The one rule is you don't step off the path that they have set out, which is some sort of anti-gravity um, uh, road, so that you don't just touch it, touch or disrupt anything else. Supposedly, the dinosaur they're going to kill was meant to die anyway, so that's why they're allowed to do this. And the story does explain, like, all right, listen, the reason why we want you to not go off the road is because one destruction of one little thing could have ramifications, big, big ramifications in the future. And of course, the guy who paid a lot of money to be on this doesn't care. And then they see a dinosaur, the guy freaks out, steps off the path, and when they go back in time, go back home, hope spoiling is not a problem because this story is what 70 years old.
Yeah, I don't think. Yeah, and the movie is 18 years old or 17
Yeah.
years old. So
Well, the point when they go back in time has changed, and this idealized society that they left from becomes this dictatorship almost. And they find out that the guy who stepped on a butterfly, and that was enough to disrupt the timeline big time. Um, and the guy, if that thing here, the guy hears the sound of thunder, the sound of a gun being shot at him for moving off the path. Um, a great short story. If you're looking for a better version of the movie, there was a series in the 80s. I think most of my picks are from the 80s, except for the comic. But there's a series called the Ray Bradbury Theater. I don't know if anyone remembers that.
oh yeah,
It didn't do well in its ratings, but there's some great stuff in there, and they did adapt Sound of Thunder, which I believe it followed it very faithfully.
right.
I do remember that show from when I was a kid, actually.
You know, and that short story has influenced a lot of other stories that we read now. I mean, the Butterfly Effect, that was really big about 20 years ago. That was from based on, well, not based on, but inspired by Bradbury's story. Obviously, the Butterfly Effect, butterfly that guy stepped on in the original story. But yeah, it's just for something a short story. It was just a great read, and Ray Bradbury is just awesome.
I just had to look this up because I remember the. It stars Ed Burns, Ben Kingsley, Catherine McCormick. It has like this crazy cast, the 2005 awful version,
Hmm.
but it was written by the guy that wrote Sahara and Dylan Dog.
Hmm.
So that tells you, sometimes you get the wrong person to adapt a brilliant piece of work.
Yeah.
All right, my number one, and I will argue this to my death, that this is the best time travel piece of entertainment ever created, and it is the anime Steins Gate. It is at its core completely and 100% about time travel. It wouldn't exist if it wasn't about time travel. Luminous, welcome to the show. I didn't realize this was a Bradbury story. I've seen a number of references to the story, including a Simpsons parody. That is true. Yeah, Sound of Thunder is one of the many, many classics that Ray Bradbury has written. But Steins Gate, you bring the picture back up here. It's the story of Okabe Rentaro, the guy in the lab coat in the middle, who, when you first meet him, is pretending to be
mad scientist.
Pretending to be a mad scientist, and thank you for the gesture, Byron, which nobody could see because I had the picture up. But anybody who's seen the anime knows what he did. And the various people around in his life, his it's the words, his sort of girlfriend, best friend, Mayuri, the one in the hat, and the actual real genius scientist, Kurisu, which is the one in the red hair. And the story is that Okabe is basically fooling around with time travel with a microwave and an old IBM computer and some bananas, and it's just, and his friend Daru is a programmer and so is doing most of the coding, and it's essentially him just pretending to be, except he winds up meeting Kurisu, whose research, she's a brilliant theoretical physicist, and her research is about time travel. And she realizes that they're actually pretty darn close. Now, it starts with the worst opening episode you'll ever see, because it starts in the middle of the end of the series, sort of. It's a time travel story. And it makes no sense to you whatsoever. You'll get done with the first episode and just go, my brain hurts, what did I just watch? But stick with it, because that second episode starts to explain a little bit about what was going on and lays out how weird this is. If, like me, you are an early denizen of the internet, I don't even want to give this away. It ties into an actual, real time travel, probably hoax, from the very, very early days of web forums, like the late 90s, 1997 and through 99, I think, is when most of it happened. And in a way that, if you jump down that rabbit hole, you realize these people knew everything about this hoax and worked it into, or maybe not a hoax, and worked it into the plot of this anime. So it has its claws in real world time travel stuff, and is just one of the most jarringly affecting stories by the time you're done with it, that you'll ever see. I mean, there's a lot of really good dramatic anime that at the end you kind of go, I need a drink. And this is one of the top tier in that particular type of anime.
I haven't seen Steins
Will
Gate.
it make you cry?
I haven't seen Steins Gate, but I think my favorite time travel anime, or anime that deals with time travel, is The Girl Who Leapt Through Time.
Also an excellent one. I just, the sort of realistic way they deal with the effects of time travel on people. I also shout out to the fact that this was one of the very first animes I had that just casually dropped that one of the characters is trans. And it eventually becomes a bit of an element in the plot, but not their transness, but sort of how people around them have reacted to it, is sort of an element. But even then,
So they don't play it for laughs.
Oh, they way don't play it for laughs.
Yeah, because I know that's a common thing in anime.
Oh yeah, no, this is absolutely one of the most properly treated and delivered trans characters. And this is from 2011, folks, 10 years ago. So yeah, there's so much good about this series that I just can't say enough about it. If you like anime, You have to watch this. If you don't like anime but you like time travel stories, you have to watch this. Um, it's just one of the most complex plots, intricate time travel, interweaving aspects of different kinds or things about time travel, stories, and one of the most affecting personal dramas, that you'll see. So can't recommend it enough. Its sequel, Steins Gate Zero, was good, but there's nothing that could have ever matched that.
Is Steins Gate
Riley,
the?
I have a oh,
Oh no, go ahead, go ahead, Byron.
Riley, I have a question. On like the make it cry scale, with Anohana being the worst. Um, well, yeah. Will it make you cry like Anohana or Gears of Firefly?
On a scale of 1 to 10, I'd say it's about an 8.5 on Ohana's.
Okay, fair enough.
It's yeah, it will affect you. Put it that way.
All right.
Is Steins Gate the one where is the character has a screw that they're constantly
No,
twisting?
That's a character named Stein, and that is from Soul Eater. He
Yes.
is a teacher at
Close,
the
though.
Reaper's Academy in Soul Eater.
And
And yes,
he's insanely OP.
yes. Oh, yeah. I mean, most of the teachers are, but yeah, Frank is way out there.
Okay, all right, now I know. Okay, now at least I won't be surprised if I check this out.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's not that character at all. Um, yeah, so that's all of our ones, correct? That's yep. So that's it, folks. That's our show. That's our time travel. As Manny said, as Byron indicated, this is one of those topics where, you could have had a top 50. I could have had a top 50 easily, and just kept going down the list of things that are absolutely fantastic. Greg was supposed to be on tonight and he didn't. I'm going to give a shout out to one of his picks, which I was going to argue isn't time travel, but it's still something that you should watch, or not watch but read, and that is Joe Haldeman's novel The Forever War. Whether it fits my definition of time travel or not, it involves people at different points of time, and it's the most wonderful anti-war war story, science fiction story I've ever read. And one of the most wonderful hard science fiction war stories. The premise is, what happens if you have to fight at an interstellar scale and you don't have faster than light travel? What does that affect like on the society back at home and on the people who are, in these ships? Luminous Arrival. Did anyone mention Groundhog Day? No, that wasn't on any of the choices. Or now Russian Doll.
I was surprised.
Yeah, Russian Doll. Like you said, show as Luminous says, Russian Doll on Netflix is a more. Nope, nobody did Groundhog Day.
Is that considered time travel? It's a time loop movie.
Well, yeah, I wouldn't. I don't know that there's a particular difference. Well, I guess there is a difference. I don't know if it makes enough difference. So for example, Forever War doesn't in fact actually involve time travel. It involves time dilation, like the movie Interstellar, where traveling close to the speed of light, people in a ship experience time way more slowly than the rest of the universe. But that counts.
Yeah, I was gonna add Frequency, which is a story about a son hearing his dead father like 20, 30 years in the past, and they're trying to solve a mystery of how he died, and he's trying to change history. But I didn't know. I was like, is that considered time travel? It deals with time, but it's not your time travel trope, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I was about to drop a spoiler for another anime, then I went, oh, yeah, I better not talk about that because that aspect of that anime is a big reveal. So, nope. Okay.
Well, I noticed that none of us picked Back to the Future, but I didn't put it on my list because as much as I like the first movie, I hated the third movie. You know, so it's like bittersweet.
Most people do.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Back to the Future is a classic, of course, but it's not a classic of time travel in my mind. It happens to have time travel. Well, I guess time travel is pretty core to the whole story, but it is, you know, it's a personal growth story and a family story and so on. It's, you know,
Yes.
it's
Yeah, time travel. Yeah, time travel is just an element of it.
right. And now that's the case for a lot of the stuff, or I would say even most of the stuff that we put up here. But anyway, folks, that's our show. Luminous, thanks for joining with us and throwing in your comments there, even if you did arrive late. Everybody here in the States, anyway, I hope you had a fun Independence Day weekend and that you were safe. And join us tomorrow night for Nerd Week Live. We've got a bunch of stuff on the roster already, so it'll be a good show. This Thursday, as I mentioned, we're going to be doing full fat spoiler chat on Tomorrow War, or The Tomorrow War, the new Chris Pratt movie. Next Monday, we're back to Anime Octane. And Anime Octane right now, I'm pretty sure we've settled on this. Yeah, it's going to be Odd Taxi.
Yes.
Okay.
Which I started watching
I
and
haven't started yet.
Oh, Byron, you should.
It's
So,
on Netflix, right?
no, it
No.
is Crunchyroll.
Okay, I'll check it out.
And folks, you know, it would be ruining the whole show of Anime Octane, but watch this damn anime.
yeah, it's really good.
If you like Agretzko, you'll love this show.
If you like Quentin Tarantino, you'll love this show. Agretzko is an accurate description of the nature of the way the characters look and how good the writing and dialogue is. It doesn't even come close to describing the mystery, the plot, the intricacies, the twists, the story. Anyway, this isn't the show to go on and on about Odd Taxi. That'll be next Monday. Luminous, good night. Everybody, good night. Byron, give us a good night.
Good night, everybody. Check me out on YouTube, Byron D0. I post 2 videos a week. I'm 1 week behind because of life, but I'll be back on soon.
Woot woot.
Yeah.
Manny.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Support us. We have a Patreon page. We have merchandise in the bottom. Please continue to support us if you like our stuff.
Image right up there, folks. Patreon.com/nerdcaliber. Count them, 2 tiers, both really low dollar. We want to just get as many people as we can to help us out, who can afford to, and help us get to cons and so on. Thank God cons are coming back. Stay safe out there, folks, and we will see you at one of the upcoming shows. Bye-bye.